Another kind of description that is often used in science is process description. This kind of description describes a process chronologically or step by step. Let's go back to the science class.
Now let's see who can describe this process. Marvin, can you try?
Miss, first the sun gives energy to the plants which use it for photosynthesis. These plants are in turn eaten by herbivores or plant-eating animals. These herbivores are eaten by carnivores such as hawks and others. At the end of the food chain are the decomposers. These organisms feed on the decaying tissues of producers and consumers. Decomposers include bacteria, fungi, etc.
The student has just described the step-by-step process involved in the food chain. Another exercise that can be done is sequencing. The teacher shows the picture of the water cycle and then asks the class to rearrange the sentences and put them in order. Let's go back to the classroom and see how the teacher does this to the class.
Okay, here's another exercise for process description. Now look at the picture of this water cycle. And then look at the sentences. These sentences are not in order. Now what I want you to do is arrange them chronologically according to the picture. Can anyone do this? Jason. Okay. Here. Let's see.
Hey.
Clouds are formed. What comes after that? Okay, very good. Very good, Jason, thank you. Now, who can read this in the right sequence? See, okay, Alex, you seem very excited.
Hi. The sun radiates heat on the surface of bodies of water. Then 2, water molecules rise and evaporate. 3, rising vapor expands and cools. 4, water vapor condenses. 5, clouds are formed. 6, clouds move toward the land.
Here are some key points to remember in doing a process description. First, avoid describing steps in a process in a series of choppy, simple sentences. Second, to write a cohesive description of a process, sentences may be combined by using linkers and expressions showing the sequence of steps. Thus, for preceding events, use before and prior to. For following events, on the other hand, use after, until, then, and next. For simultaneous events, use at the same time as, during, and others. Third, to mark stages in the process, use first to mark opening or initial stage. Finally, to mark last or ultimate stage. Next, then, subsequently, meanwhile, to mark following stages. As, while, during, to mark simultaneous stages. Eventually, later, to mark events after some time.
Okay, can you use linkers in the description of the water cycle? Anyone? Let's see. J.O.?
Well, in describing the water cycle, first, the sun radiates heat on the surface of bodies of water.
Okay.
Then, water molecules rise and evaporate. Meanwhile, rising vapor expands and cools. Subsequently, rain is precipitated. Eventually, the rain is absorbed by the soil. And finally, the rain flows back into the sea.
Aside from the rhetorical device of description, we have also comparison and contrast. There are two patterns of development: the opposing pattern or section by section, and the alternating pattern or point by point. In the opposing pattern, the characteristics of one are enumerated and then the characteristics of the other to which it is being compared. While in the alternating pattern, the two entities are compared side by side. Our example is paragraph 3 of the ecosystem text.
Okay, now I want you to go back to your readings on the ecosystem and read paragraph 3. Okay? Okay, now, can you pick out a sentence, okay, from the text which shows comparison and contrast? Anyone? Lloyd?
Organisms which are self-feeding are autotrophic, while organisms which feed on others are heterotrophic.
Okay, so from that, what word indicates comparison and contrast?
While.
Aside from the rhetorical devices of description, classification, comparison and contrast, we have cause and effect. Let us see how the teacher uses this device in her class. But before that, let's pause first for a few reminders. Stay tuned.